Welcome to Liana series of episodes. Today we have the pleasure to host Manel. Manel was trained as an architect and specialized in building information modeling technology, as well as environmental emergency architecture. He has experience supporting both public and private entities, and is currently a problem solver at cleantech 011.8, a real estate developer with the goal of accelerating the transition to a sustainable built environment, designing and building carbon-neutral buildings through a component-based systems, a pioneering digital platform, and industrialization. Manel, thank you for joining.
Thank you, Sara. Thank you, Mélissa, for having me here today.
First, I would like to ask you, for a general audience, can you explain a bit what is business as usual in the architecture, engineering, construction, and operation sector?
Okay, so when we talk about this, we talk about productivity, and so many people compare construction as in other fields like manufacturing, transportation, or whatever. So if we see two graphics of this, we see the productivity of these fields like the manufacturing goes rising and rising and rising. And when we see the construction field, it's completely plain. So that means like we haven't changed in maybe 40 years, 50 years, and we are constructing the same way because construction projects used to be and are still being like kind of unique and unrepeatable projects. That means, of course, like it's so complex, it's too slow to build, and we have sometimes low quality that leads to some timings and cost deviation that cannot be faced by everyone. So if we think like big projects in the world, like big museums, big auditoriums, we always have this thing, in the news, like, yeah, it has a budget of 8 millions, but finally it was like 10 millions. That's why we are constructing we're building a bit in a wrong way. Yeah.
So, Manel, to which extent is the built environment responsible of the emergency we are facing?
Well, actually, we are the bad guys here, because 35% of the carbon emissions are due to buildings. That means more than 1/3 of global emissions are caused by our sector. That is huge.
A huge amount.
That is a huge amount. And then 38% of electricity consumption is made also by us, by buildings. So we have like a big goal here to achieve and to reduce these two numbers, the consumption of electricity and the carbon footprint.
And do you think that the traditional approach to construction address these challenges?
No, I don't think so, because it's been some time. We just tried to construct. We didn't have control on the growth. We just wanted to have more buildings, more projects, and we didn't stop and think, hey, is this sustainable? Are we doing the better way we can do it right now? And therefore, we've grown like unmeasurably, and no, we didn't think about this, but now there are some regulations, some voices, some companies that are trying to change things. Luckily.
So it's clear at this point that the current approach to construction, to design, to building, it's not sustainable. So to your point of view, which would be the way to go and why?
Yeah, it's funny because when we talk about sustainable architecture, we always face it to normal architecture. But what if we change this and we say like the regular architecture or the good architecture is sustainable? And what we were doing before this, it's like unsustainable architecture. We have to change this. Like only good architecture, it's gonna be the sustainable one. We cannot still thinking about, Yes, we need fast growth, we need fast buildings, whatever, in the way we were thinking on before this. I mean,
exactly. We need to benchmark. We need a reference that allow us to say, okay, so this is not working. By defining what is not working, we can gain insights on which could be the way to go.
Yeah, the concept of sustainability, as I understand it, is, yeah, maybe if I ask you, or if I ask the audience what sustainability is, it's something like so complex, or it has no clear definition. But if I ask you what unsustainability is, I mean, the opposite, I mean, we get to the mind like, well, it's not. So we should stop thinking on sustainability, and we should focus on unsustainability. I mean, things that we cannot reproduce, we cannot keep doing the same way.
And that would be polluting architecture that is not inclusive, that is not fair, that is not affordable by the people.
Exactly.
That's what we are trying to change.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So can you develop a bit on your experience on which are the solutions that you and your company are? How are you addressing this issue? To your point of view, which is the way to go? How can we do things correctly?
Yes. So from our point of view, we work on three main points. Okay. We work, as you said, and the interaction. We work with a component-based system. Okay. We work with an integrated partners network, and we work with data, with digital applications. I mean, with these three aspects, we are trying to face two main topics, like the reduction of the 38% of emissions, carbon emissions, and then also the lack of, I mean, the difficulties like the people have to access to a sustainable housing. And how are we going to do this? How are we doing this? I mean, we are doing with industrialization construction. Okay. Before starting this, we should, for the people that are not used to this concept, we should differentiate between on-site construction and off-site construction. Okay, on-site construction is where the building is going to be. Like, we have a plot, we need a building, a museum, a hospital there, an infrastructure, whatever. And the off-site, it's where we are exploring here. We are moving the construction field to a factory. Okay, we are industrializing our building. So with these components, okay, a component for us is a constructed element that contains all the information we need to be manufactured, to be purchased, to be assembled, to be costed, all the sustainability
to be measured in
to be measured exactly inside this component. And with this component, we build housing, we build infrastructure, buildings. Okay, so that doesn't mean we build the same building in the same place every time. No. These components allow us to have a kind of flexibility in order to design better. I mean, we design each building with the requirements, with the passive requirements in the house, or on the land, and so on.
And I understand that this component unit has a lot to do with how you manage the industrialization difficulty, because industrialization has been historically more difficult to apply to construction than to other industries, partly due to the greater variability and uniqueness of each project. But I understand that the component approach helps you face this difficulty.
Yeah, because we are designing like something that has a performance. I mean, something that can work by itself. We don't need more. So with this, I mean, it's such a hard work to define and to design and to get logical of how this works. But we did it, and with this, we can industrialize it so easy. I mean, with this growth on the industry, on the industrialization we are trying to face, we can design better, and we can design faster. We can design with more safety and quality, of course. And
so, as I understand, the component gives you enough flexibility to face different challenges, to design different buildings depending on different project needs, different plot shapes, depending. It allows you to adapt to the uniqueness of each project,
yes,
while providing you with enough information to standardize anything that can be standardized.
Yeah, of course, because it has no sense to construct the same way in the north of Spain rather than in Finland or somewhere else. Like, we need to be aware of the conditions of the project, and we need to be flexible with that.
And I have to ask you, because you mentioned earlier data. How is digitalization changing the way you approach design and construction?
The thing is, all construction couldn't measure anything. I mean, almost anything, because they didn't have this completely data. So what we're facing here is like, if we want to build better, if we want to build with knowing the impact we're having, we need this data. I mean, we need to know where we're using, what we are designing, what we're prescribing, like this material. It is sustainable, it is not. How much energy consumption did it take? How much water did it needed to be productive? So with this data, we are able to have better decisions, to take better decisions. And this is the main point on here. So if we cannot measure, if we don't have that data, we cannot decide. We cannot know this is better or this is worse.
Exactly. You cannot improve what you don't measure. You cannot
exactly.
You need awareness.
Data nowadays. I mean, and of course, it's not that simply to ask someone, hey, how is the EDP on here? Like the EPD, sorry, the environmental product declaration. I mean, we ask the providers, hey, do you have this? If you don't, maybe we cannot work yet with you. I mean, do your work or provide us with this information in order to just know. I mean, this knowledge we need. And
as I understand, as you are explaining, digitalization helps you coordinate with other stakeholders, right?
Exactly. With this integrated partners network, we can co-design with them. We can have this the prior information in order to build better. Yes.
And Manel, from this approach, which are the social, environmental, and economic benefits that are induced?
So, for example, in environmental terms, we are now in a project. I'm in the middle of a project called Fiesta. We're doing here in Alicante. So we could reduce 80% of the CO2 emitted during construction. See, that means 4,000 tons of CO2 that we didn't emit. I mean, we got them, and it is translated. I mean, for people, it's like 2,000 cars, 2,000 vehicles less in our world. So that's a lot.
That's a huge reduction.
Yeah, it is.
And I also understand that there are also social benefits derived from this approach.
Yes, of course. Like we are trying to build a better world for everyone, not only for the rich people. So what we're trying to do here is to provide access to a sustainable housing to everyone. So that means we have to do it in costs. I mean, we cannot we cannot construct without taking account into the market, because yeah, we live in a capitalism world, and we need to have a client to be happy with the cost and whatever. So we are doing strategies to allow low income people to access to this housing.
And I understand that industrialization helps reduce the cost, because you are, as long as you standardize, as long as you build industrially, you reduce the cost way better than if you faced every project as a unique challenge faced in the plot of every building.
You're so right. Yes.
Okay, and one question, Manel. If we want to measure all this, which tools do we have to measure the impacts of our benefits? I mean, I have heard you talking about life cycle assessments and certificates and sustainability certificates. Can you explain us a bit, how do you quantify the impact of your assets?
Okay, so the thing here is, like, we cannot just focus on the construction field. I mean, there's more than that. So this life cycle analysis, it's a method that we use to study the environmental impact of the whole project infrastructure in all the stages on its life. Okay, so we start with the production, okay, with the materials. We need to count to know how many emissions, for example, the water or the electricity we need, or the energy we need to product the materials we're going to use in the building. Like, for example, the concrete, the wood, the whatever material we're using. Then, of course, we have the construction. I mean, what we construct, transportation, whatever. Then the use of the building. We design buildings to last for 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. So during this life of the building, we should keep measuring, like, how much does it cost in environmental terms. Then the end of life of this asset, we need to demolish, we need to disassembly the infrastructure, and that also has an impact. And of course, the new life. If we disassemble this project, we can give a new life to it. So we need to, take a step back and see the whole process to measure, not only in construction. But I'm going to give you some numbers, because, for example, the 75% of the carbon emissions are emitted during the building's use phase. I mean,
the operational stage.
Exactly. Right now, I'm using electricity for my laptop. When I cook, whatever, I'm using energy. So that means 3/4 of the whole building life in terms of impact.
And the life cycle assessment tools takes this into consideration.
Yes, exactly. And only the 25% of the carbon we emit, it's called embodied carbon. It's due to production, transport, construction, maintenance, renovation, and other like. And luckily, like, this 75% of the use of the building, at least in the European Union, it's like we have, in our fridges, we have, when we buy a fridge or whatever, we have this label with A level, B. That means like the impact it has. So buildings also have this label, and it attacks this 75%. But till 25% of the carbon is not yet related.
Okay. And one question in this regard. Up to date, are we able to estimate the complete carbon footprint of our assets?
So we should be able to, but it is so difficult because there's so many variables, and mostly we have estimations during the production and the use of the building. Because if I mean, we can have an estimation, of course, like how many energy this building is going to consume and whatever. But with that estimation, we should be able to take decisions. We should be able to analyze data, and we should be able to see if we are doing a good project or a disaster one. But yeah, and in terms of products and manufacturing, I mean, industry is doing a push. It's doing a push on having this EPD, the Environmental Product Declaration. It's like a label, another label for materials. But we need to do an effort in this.
So I can imagine that in regard to the supply chain, this also has an impact in there, because maybe, I mean, if you want to estimate the complete carbon footprint of your building, and you have to choose between two possible suppliers, and one has the environmental product declaration, but the other doesn't.
That's not, of course. I mean,
that has an
here
impact.
the choose is so obvious, you know. But yeah, what if we have between two supply chains, like one has an EPD and another has another? We should be critical with this information too, and have the knowledge to choose wisely.
Okay, and I would also take the chance to ask you, in regard to the life cycle assessment and sustainability certification, maybe you could clarify to our public what's the meaning of different related concepts, such as the Sustainable Development Goals, the Levels Framework, the European Taxonomy. Can you develop a bit on this?
Yeah, so these Sustainable Development Goals, it's part of this Agenda 2030 that so many people are, I don't know, excited about that. I don't know why. I mean, it's a bit funny. And they are set in 2015, I think, by the General Assembly of the United Nations. And we are directly involved in 6 of them. So there are like some objectives, but okay, we need to accomplish by 2030. And construction and our sector has 6. I think there are 13, but we are 6 related directly. That is like well, there's so many. I mean, there's such a huge list, but I'm not gonna say them now. But then we also have at the European lookup, we have the levels and the European taxonomy. The European taxonomy is more than a classification for economical activities. So that classifies all the activities we have that can have a positive impact, environmental talking. It has like 6 objectives, like the climate change mitigation, the climate change adaptation, water resources, circular economy, pollution, and ecosystems. So that is linked to levels. Levels, it's more like a tool that allows us to evaluate sustainability in buildings. It's like the performance. It's like a certification, an European certification, because we have like a private certifications, for example, coming from sometimes from public public fundings. We have in Spain, we have Verde from the Clean Council building. We have this well-known passive house. Everyone wants to have a passive house nowadays. We have Dream, but levels allows us to do it like connected to the European taxonomy.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And there's a mainstream concept related to the European taxonomy. A lot of people
yeah, a lot of people are talking about that, like the do not significant harm, right?
Yes. Can you explain a bit what that means?
That means that, yes, of course, we gotta build I'm not talking now about construction, but we need to be we need to reduce our impact, our environmental impact, but it's not at any cost. I mean, we cannot, for example, we cannot construct with a newly high material that consumes tons and tons of water. No, 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 no. I mean, we should do it without harm others or other resources or other lands or other population. I mean, we should do it together in the right way.
In an inclusive manner and in do
Yes.
no harm manner. So not at any cost.
Exactly.
Okay, this has a lot to do with ESG. Because environmental, societal, and governance issues are very linked to the impact that you have upon society, upon governance, and upon environment.
Yeah, and I know that you too, I mean, are really experts in ESG. So probably more than me, but yes, we have to do so many things in this aspect and construction sector.
And which are the main challenges and opportunities your industry is facing regarding to ESG?
To ESG. Maybe the one that I always like to point first is like the fair employment, because construction workers used to be how can I say this?
They used to work in very poor conditions.
Yes, that's a politely way to say it. Yes. So for example, what we are proposing with this industrialization, we can move a lot of workers from the on-site to the off-site to our factories where we have better conditions. We can have like more specialized workers. We can grow with them, and also the paper of the woman in the construction field has been always residual. Nowadays, yes, it's changing, likely, but we need to do more, and we need to create safer spaces for them. We think we can do with this offsite industrialization, for example.
And do you think that in regard to ESG, do you think that the current capitalist model is well shaped, or is shaped in a manner that would allow us to perform sustainably in regard to society, in regard to the environment, in regard to the economy?
So the thing we are facing here is like, yeah, we had to assume that we are living in a capitalism world or a capitalism society. But we should be aware that maybe the growing of the construction in construction terms are not really sustainable. That means like maybe we should consider stop building that much that we're doing right now. And it's so hard to say because of course I work for a company that builds, so there's so many employers, there are so many economic
powers,
yes, that are involved in this. But if we want to be ethical about this, we should at least be aware that this growth is not sustainable for the planet. And then, yes, of course, maybe we cannot say like, okay, we have a client, it comes to us and say, I want to build this. It's too difficult to say, no, we are not doing it because blah, 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 blah. But what we can do is to propose better solutions, to propose new materials, to propose whatever it takes in our hands to this project to be at least sustainable, like in the right now even. But we should change the way we conceive the world and apply new solutions, because this has to have an end.
And I understand that this change starts within us. I mean, as
Yeah,
you...
I mean, we three are relatively young people, but that doesn't mean that all people cannot be aware of this. But I think we should have a generational change, and new generations should be more combative about these topics. I mean, we should not do it for next generations. We should act because our generation, for us. If we think like, yeah, we're doing this for our children, for our blah 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 blah. No. We are doing this for us, and we should do it now. I mean, there's no time to 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 say like, no. We always talk about 2050 as the goal that we wanna blah blah blah. No. The time is now. I mean, we have to act now to arrive to this 2050 in good condition, and we're not doing it because we're saying, yeah, the time will say, no. We should act now. Young people has so many power in this. Sorry, Melissa.
Okay, thank you, Manel. Considering all what we have been discussing, how do you think that our audience can engage with an improvement?
Okay, so first of all, we should be optimistic. I mean, yeah, it's so easy to be anxious about these environmental things. I mean, I used to be like more anxious about this topic, like, because I feel like anyone would listen to me, like I was just talking to no one, like they thought I was doing crazy, whatever. And yes, I think this educational new, I mean, we need to face a new educational approach to these topics, to the environmental approach. And yeah, what I really want people to do is whatever, I mean, not just when building or whatever, just ask yourself, is it enough? I mean, when taking a decision, just ask yourself, is it enough for who? For the planet, for me, for my society? Is it enough to make it this way? Is it enough? Or could I just, maybe it's gonna be a bit more difficult, but could I do it other way? Just think what's in your hand at any time that can cause impact. Impact in yourself, in your society, and into the world.
I share your vision of optimism because, in fact, behaving sustainably can actually lead us to be more happy, can actually lead us to believe in harmony with our surroundings, with our community, with our environment. So the fact that we make more aware decisions in terms of our material consumption, for instance, the fact that we make more aware decisions can actually lead us to feel more fulfilled and to feel better.
Yes, totally.
So I do share your optimistic
Me too, definitely.
Okay, so I think that we have covered the topics that we intended to cover. So now we are closing with you, Manel. Thank you very much for being with us. It's been an honor having you on board. And see you soon.
See ya.